Vikram, I want to start from the very early bit of the book. There is a very specific line. I want to read this paragraph in totality.
Yeah.
You talk about historians, and then you state their falsehoods and reputations lie shattered today as much as the mythical Nehruvian consensus. Fortunately, and after having burnt their fingers and reputations badly in the current legal contestations around the Kashi Vishwanath temple and Mathura Shri Krishna Janmasthan cases, these Marxist historians are thankfully conspicuous by their absence. The harm that they have inflicted on our understanding of our past is a treatise in itself. As will be seen in this volume 2, unsubstantiated propaganda with no sources was passed off as history in several cases, including Kashi Vishwanath, by congressmen like Sitaramaiya or Bishambar Nath Pandey and Marxist historians like Gargi Chakrabarti and K.N. Panikar. They made atrocious claims, and this is the bit I want to lay the emphasis on. They made atrocious claims that Aurangzeb destroyed the Kashi Vishwanath temple not of his own will, but on the advice of Hindu Rajas who were outraged by priests molesting the Rani of Kutch. These tales had no sources, no details, but yet passed off as true history through word of mouth and the sheer heft that some of these worthies commanded, demonizing the Brahmin, undermining Hindu faith, and glorifying whitewashing and acting as apologists for Islamic bigots was a clear pattern of Nehruvian secular historiography. This too stands delegitimized and hotly contested today. Why I wanted to start with this bit is I want to first steelman the arguments these people have made that you steelman in the books. And I know now you might be like, "Arey isko steelman kaise karu?" They're bringing it out of their ass. I understand that, which is why I read the entire paragraph in its totality so that people get the context. But how, what was the origin of this Ghatia idea that it was the Raja, Hindu Rajas who did it? Like, they must have, like, and was there no challenge at that time also when they came up with this rubbish story?
Yeah. So just see this. I mean, while writing about it, Kushal, honestly, my blood boiled. Because this.
I feel you, brother. I feel you.
So, for the benefit of your listeners, I must tell what that story was. So, Bishambarnath Pandey, who we speak about, he was a very famous, worthy of the Congress party. He was also a scholar of history. He became the governor of Odisha. He won several awards, Sahitya Academy and Padma and all these things. And he, in one of his books called Islam and Indian Culture, a paper rather, he spoke about this episode and what is that episode in common terms. So he says, so once Aurangzeb was supposed to have been going on an expedition to Bengal, and he was taking along with him all the entire entourage of Hindu Rajas and their Ranis. Now this story is a fairy tale. It's a cock and bull story made of out of nothing. So I just tell you what are the loopholes, factual loopholes, point by point. So first of all, nowhere in the entire biography, all the authorized biographies of Aurangzeb, has Aurangzeb ever gone to Bengal himself on an expedition. He sent his senapatis and all the commanders, but he's never gone to Bengal. But in Pandeyji's story, Aurangzeb Saab goes on the expedition to Bengal, and he takes Hindu Rajas and Ranis also. And then while going from the capital to Bengal, Varanasi comes on the way, and all the Rajas they tell Aurangzeb that Jahapana, this is such a sacred place, so let us just stay on here today, tonight, so that we can go and worship Vishwanath. And Aurangzeb, being the secular, generous, golden-hearted ruler that he was, immediately said, yes, let's halt for the night. The second loophole, the same Rajas who asked permission to go and worship Vishwanath, they themselves did not go to worship. They instead sent their Ranis, to worship Vishwanath. And the third loophole is the Ranis of Rajput states, no less. They did not have security guards. They went unarmed and all by themselves. So the Ranis are supposed to have gone to the Ganga, taken a dip there, and then come to the Vishwanath Mandir, did their puja, etc. And then they came back. Now, when a count was then taken, it was seen that one Rani was less in the less in the people who came back, and that was the Rani of Kutch who went missing. So they frantically searched for her. They could not find her anywhere. And Aurangzeb, the news went to him, and he was enraged that, oh my God, how could this happen? From my entourage, some queen is missing. And so he sent his soldiers then to look for her. And they come there, and apparently this temple had such marvelous architecture from, I don't know how, that it had a sliding, wall. There was a Ganesh Ji ki murti, which if you displaced, the wall just slid. And there was a flight of steps which went from there. And once you go down, the soldiers went down. It was dark down, and this was right below the Garbhagriha, or the sanctum of Vishwanath. And there they found the Rani, molested, wailing without her ornaments and clothes and all that. And then they asked her what happened, and she said, oh, I was molested by the Brahmin priests of the Vishwanath temple. And they do this very regularly to all the wealthy pilgrims who come to do puja at the Vishwanath temple. And so the Hindu Rajas were so incensed, to hear this, that they prevailed upon Aurangzeb, saying this place is like a den of evil acts, the very place of Satan. So you, Jahapana, you must demolish this temple. Now the Brahmins committed the act, if at all, then they could have been caught and persecuted or hanged or whatever. For that, the entire temple need not have been demolished. But they told him, and Aurangzeb, though he never wanted to demolish it himself, he gave in to the extreme pressures of the Hindu Rajas and went ahead and demolished the Kashi Vishwanath temple. So that is the entire cover fire that Pandeji gives to Aurangzeb's act. So though we don't know, in Mathura, in all the other different temples, Somnath, so many temples that Aurangzeb demolished, which all Ranis were molested, where all. Maybe there are new fairy tales that were spun in all those places. Now, when we dig deeper into where did Dr. Pandey get this, for his Islam and Indian culture, the source he states is Pattabi Sitaramayya's book, Feathers and Stone. Now, in this Feathers and Stones, there is a reference. Sitaramaya, as you all know, he was the Congress president who even displaced Subhash Chandra Bose, and he wrote the history of the Congress party and all that. So this man was also, he went on to become the first governor of Madhya Pradesh. So someone very high up in the ranks, in the esteem of Gandhi and also of the Congress higher rank. Now, in his book, he first makes a reference to this fable. And what does he say? I'll just read out straight from Feathers and Stones. He says, this story of the Banaras Masjid was given in a rare manuscript in Lucknow, which was in the possession of a respected mullah who had read it in the manuscript, and who, though he promised to look it up and give the manuscript to a friend to whom he had narrated the story, he died without fulfilling his promise. This story is little known, and the prejudice we are told against Aurangzeb persists. So what is he saying here? That this entire story of the Kutch Rani and all that was in a rare manuscript with a mullah in Lucknow, and he died without giving it to his friend, and his friend told that to Pattabi Sitaramaya. Now, unknown mullah, unknown friend, unnamed manuscript, but that is truth. And 3-4 PhDs have been written which quote this as one of the reasons for Aurangzeb's demolition of the masjid. And later on, other this totally undocumented malicious propaganda was then given more respectability by academicians and so-called professional historians, whom you mentioned, Gargi Chakravarti. She says, and I quote her, much has been said about Aurangzeb's demolition order of Vishwanath temple at Banaras, but documentary evidence gives a new dimension to the whole episode. So what is this documentary evidence? This unnamed mullah's unknown manuscript, and he died without giving it to anybody. So nobody has seen the godforsaken document. And the another K.N. Panikkar of the Jawaharlal Nehru University, he spins a different theory. He says the destruction of the temple at Banaras also had political motives. It appears that a nexus between the Sufi rebels and the Pandits of the temple existed, and it was primarily to smash this nexus that Aurangzeb ordered action against the temple. So it appears, just see the words he uses, it appears that a nexus existed between Sufi rebels and the Brahmin priests of Kashi Vishwanath. Now, to whom it appears and how it appears, what is the source for this appearance, we don't know. So then, the circular referencing, one fellow has told something, then his chum will quote him, then the third fellow will quote the first and second chaps. And in this wonderful peer reviewed, to which these people have so much of, pride about, we are peer reviewed professional historians. This is the kind of balderdash that comes out. And when you repeat a lie 100 times, it starts assuming the veneer of the truth. And that's exactly what happened. This was just one such instance. And this, your blood boils, that how do you kind of make up these kind of fantastic tales? And that's why demonizing the Brahmin and providing cover fire to the Islamic bigot, that is the constant, pattern all through. And we've seen that even in the Ayodhya case. We saw it till recent times, where people like Professor Irfan Habib and others, how they lied on the Vishnu Hari inscription in Ayodhya, how all these historians came and gave testimonies which were full of lies in courts, which Dr. Meenakshi Jain has documented so beautifully in her books, which is there for all to see. So, this is the subterfuge, constant, nonsense that gets told. And recently, I think a month ago or something, when this Gyanvapi was again in circulation, the entire story, you had Irfan Habib again, I think on Quint or so, he gave a statement first, saying that finally he agreed that Aurangzeb ne wahan pe temple to destroy kiya, but वो शिवजी का मंदिर था, वो हमें पता ही नहीं है. So this opens the window to say, as they always say, oh, but that was a Buddhist shrine, that was a Jain shrine, or the usual, it's a ghisa pita, it's so predictable kind of an excuse. Now, in Masire Alamgiri, which is the contemporary with Saki Mustaid Khan, who was commissioned during the lifetime of Aurangzeb to write from his own akhbarat or the court documents, 2 years or 3 years after Aurangzeb's death, the Masire Alamgiri was published. In that, very clearly, Masire Alamgiri states that in April 1669, you had the Farman, Badshahi Farman of Aurangzeb, which says all these evil places of the Brahmins in various cities, including Multan, Tatta, Banaras, all these should be demolished. And the order is carried out. And in September 1669, the return message is sent by the soldiers in Banaras, or the administration in Banaras, saying, as per the Badshah's orders, we have demolished all the temples in Banaras, including Kashi Bishnath. Bishnath is what it is saying. So the contemporary record of his own courtier is saying that, he demolished it. But our Vardis, eminent historians, will say, oh, but Masire Alamgiri is not a reliable document. But this unnamed mullah's unknown source is extremely sacrosanct. Why? Because it it proves your theory right. So, each time, you see the kind of, subterfuge that has been done with our history. You feel enraged, you feel so much of sorrow. And it's also that these people are still placed in that pedestal. They've not paid a price ever for all the lies, for all the enmity that they have caused between communities. Ayodhya too would have resolved itself. Even the Muslim community was rather conciliatory, and they wanted to give away the site because it didn't have much importance to them. But these people egged them on, saying, "Nahi, nahi, we will manufacture evidence for you. Chalo, you can fight." And look at the quality of the evidence they manufactured. You had people giving testimonies in courts, saying, I'm not at all a expert of medieval India. All my sources, Times of India, newspaper reports. I have not read Arabic, Persian. I don't know anything about Aurangzeb's history, Babur's history, nothing, Mughal India. So, and someone said, I did a PhD during Mulayam Singh Yadav's tenure. I mean, with totally extraneous information. So, unfortunately, and I'm so glad you started with my usual rant against these type of historians who have done incalculable damage, I think much more than what the colonial historians could have done, to the way we look at our own past and what we make out of it.
No, the reason I started with this is, years ago, I remember reading Konrad Elst, where he had pointed out the absolutely evil role
Yeah.
that this historian scholar clan has played in
Yeah.
these issues, whether it's Ayodhya, whether it's in now going to be in Kashi Mathura
Hmm.
now. And every time there was an attempt from the Hindu side to sit across the table, reach out to the Muslim community and tell them, देखो हमें साथ में रहना है, let us solve this problem in a mature manner. And these historians would be like, नहीं नहीं हमारा case बहुत strong है, and they would go on misguiding the Muslim side. I'm not giving
Oh,
a free pass to the Islamists at all, but I think these people, what they have done, like the way you narrated it, what basically their claim is like, trust me, bro.
yeah.
It's actually, I mean, this one single claim of that obscure mullah is literally on the basis of what? Trust me, bro. मैंने देखा है.
Yeah. मैंने
I
भी
mean,
नहीं देखा, मैंने सुना है.
yeah.